as a prerequisite to cybersecurity. All the basic experimentation like the Linux and other parts have been already studied in the previous specialization core 1. So now we will be applying the various kinds of tools and various kinds of open source tools that are readily available, freely available in Windows as well as in Linux. Okay, so mostly we will be using Linux system, but I will be providing an alternative if you have any Windows system that you can run on those machines too. But I'll recommend that you can either use what do you say, a type 1 virtual box or a VMware. Okay, so that depends upon you. If you are accustomed to using Windows, you can use a virtual box, or you can use type 1 VMware. So VMware will take your resources. It will be like two operating system on the same machine, and virtual box will be like a guest and a host kind of a procedure. So your Linux will be acting as a guest, and your operating system, that is window, will be your host. So the guest will be asking the host for resources. Okay, so Windows will provide resources to your virtual box. Okay, so both of them are fine. And if you have only one standalone system that only uses Linux, that is also fine. Okay, so don't worry, I will provide every alternative to every tool. Okay, so we have studied previously that why network security is important, because you already know that why you got into cyber security is the purpose of it. Okay, there are two main common terms that will occur throughout this particular specialization, that is vulnerability, threats, and something called attacks. Okay, so attacks can only be possible if there are vulnerability and threats that exist in the system. Okay, so I will list out the differences between what is a vulnerability and what is a threat and what is an attack in the end. Okay, so we have seen actually vulnerability is nothing but a weakness that lies in the system that we actually do not know anything about. Okay, suppose you have designed a kind of a software, and there may be a security flaw in that software that you are not aware of. Okay, so that particular weakness that are not visible to you can be visible to the outer audiences or any other person that is using your software. Okay, so using that weakness, he can exploit many kinds of different thing to work in your the work in their favor. Okay, so suppose if you have designed a banking system and a software for a banking system, that will be your software. And in that banking system there will be a username and password uh, that will be there to go into your account and any other thing. So if you do not apply any kind of a validation on this particular username and password, if there is no validation that can be applied on it, I can just simply write a query, because you already know that a software works on two things. First thing, that will be your front end, and second thing, that will be your backend. Okay, so in the backend there will be any kind of a SQL server or database server that the particular software will be using. Okay, any kind of any kind of a software that you are using to store the database. Okay, so in this database there will be username and passwords of various kind of clients that you have it. So what I can simply do to exploit this thing, if you do not apply any kind of a validation on it, I can simply perform what you can call a Sql injection. Okay, so how can you do it? It's very simple to apply, but nowadays there are many kind of safeguards that are already there to take care of these attacks. But it's very simple to apply. Okay, so how can you apply it? Because you already, if you, however, if you are able to know that which particular database server that they're using at the backend, like if they're using MySQL or they're using Oracle or any kind of a thing, you can simply write a query in the user box or a password box to pass into this. Okay, suppose if I simply write a username here, that is ABC, and a password here like dollar hash or equal to. So these two things will go into backend, will go into the database, and they will be validated against. If they are correct, then you will be logged into the system. Okay, so simply I can simply write here a query. I can say that select star from users. Okay, so I can directly write it, select star from. I do not know the database table name. Okay, so actually I do not know the table name here. I can just simply write select star from something. Okay, so just I'll write question mark here. Okay, I do not know it because it is taking the already taking everything from the table. So I can just directly write select star. Okay, so in this it can give you the username and password of all the clients that are present in the bank or in any kind of organization. Okay, it's a very simple attack. If you're seeing here, if you're not making any kind of a validation that you cannot input those commands, it is very easily, because this particular thing will be given to a backend server and it will run as a command and it will return everything. That if it is returning everything, it will be go into this username and password box. Okay, so it's called a simple SQL injection that can be easily taken if you are not taking care of these simple things. Now understand this, that network security is actually what you're designing a software and what you're learning from it. Okay, so previously this kind of attacks used to happen, but now uh, with the what do you say, with the information of the attack, that simply particular attacks are being operating in our software, in any other software, there will be safeguards, then there will be security teams that will be taking care of those attacks such that they will not occur in the future. Okay, so it is not like any software or any kind of a service is you cannot say it is 100% what you say secure. Okay, there may always be some kind of a vulnerability that is just waiting there to be detected by any kind of a person that is looking for it. Okay, so these are the vulnerabilities, that the vulnerabilities are the weaknesses that lies in the system. Okay, so now if you see here, what are the examples of it? We have already studied it. There is something, this is a case study here. I have taken this case study. I'll explain you that what actually happened. This particular was a ATM networks. It's a very what do you say, illustrative attack that happened there. What happened in this attack, that $2.5 billion, $2.5 million, uh, not from any kind of a server. It's actually hard cash. Okay, cash from ATM networks. Okay, so ATM networks was taken out of it. Okay, so again, the servers that are located here, it happened in Taiwan, but the servers of this particular bank was located in a London branch. Okay, so I'll explain a little bit of things, that how this particular thing happens and what are the vulnerabilities that are already there in the system, and the hackers, you can call them hackers, but they are just looking for vulnerabilities. Okay, so hackers are just those people that can change the software according to your needs. Okay, so suppose you have a PS5 or a PS4, and on those particular machine you cannot what you said, download pirated games and everything, because if you are on a server, or if you are uh, connect to Sony servers, they will ban you for life and you cannot access their any kind of a game that is available. But if you can write a piece of software or write a piece of code that just don't connect to the servers of Sony, and then you can play, or what do we call it, a jailbreak. Okay, so in that, what happens is that your machine do not connect to Sony servers, and you can play a pirated game on your PS4 or PS5. Okay, so this thing is actually called hack. Okay, we do not think hacking is a bad term. Hacking is actually uh, to make a software run according to you. Okay, so if you want something, you can hack it, or you can change the coding of a particular software so that it can perform those tasks originally which it was not written for. Okay, so I'll explain this case study just in the next slide. Don't worry about that. And there are some, these are the examples of vulnerabilities, and vulnerabilities are not only in hardware, they can also exist in software. Okay, so sorry, not in software, they can also exist in hardware as well. Okay, another thing is that we do not take care. The vulnerability, most people think that it is already hardware and software, but people and human error is also a kind of a vulnerability. Okay, so it is like that you are working in a bank and you are easily able to see the username and password of any other people, and you can take out their money. That can also happen if you are greedy. You can take it. So vulnerabilities also do not means that it will be caused only by the machines. It can be only caused by the hardware or the software, but it also in this vulnerability uh, in this vulnerability, the human error and the people will also come in there. Okay, people like that they do not have a sufficient training or sufficient knowledge to operate systems. Okay, so you already know that there is a kind of a attack where people call you and then say that from your UPI you press it and some kind of a money got deducted from your account. Okay, so it is not it is not like that they are using any kind of a software attack or a hardware attack. They are just using the the deficiency of knowledge that exists nowadays in people. Okay, so again keep that in mind. Vulnerability does not, but just one thing I want to underline here, that vulnerability is not only hardware and software, it can also be from people or human error. Okay, so another thing is that how what are the types of system security threats that can occur. Okay, so these are the categories. In this there are many attacks and threats that can come under it. Okay, first one is interception, then interruption, and then modification and fabrication. Okay, so interception is that if there are two particular host and a server communicating with it, and what you are doing, you are gaining access of this communication. Okay, suppose I'm giving some kind of information and I can just intercept this particular communication and I can change the content of this. Okay, suppose I'm saying that I want from my bank this, suppose this is a server of the bank and this is you and this is another person, that third party that are trying to that are intercepting your message. Okay, so in your message you are saying that please transfer me 1,000 rupees. In this particular message there will be a sorry source IP address and a destination IP address. Okay, so I intercepted this packet and I can change the content of the packet. Suppose the packet is source IP address, that will be yours. Destination IP address, that will be the bank destination IP address. IP means internet protocol address. Okay, so there will be some figure 1,000 rupees that I want to get it. Okay, so what I'll do here, I intercept this message and I change the source IP address to this third party, that is the hacker or any other thing. So I'm changing the source IP address to the source IP address of the third party. Okay, now I'm sending and I'm also changing 1,000 to 10,000. Okay, so when I send this message and the bank is transferring this money to this particular IP address, and this is how you can easily intercept the message in between and you can take out and change the content of the message to your own advantage. Okay, so this is referred to as interception. Some unauthorized party has gained access to an asset. Okay, so what it means, previously it was when the internet was very new, this kind of attack was very what you say common. Okay, so that is why they have taken something called a digital signature. Okay, so I'll show you digital signature how they work, and it's very simple and it's very elegant solution. I'll show you when I come to public and private key cryptography, but it's a very elegant solution to just verify that a particular message is being sent by the user. Okay, so it's very elegant solution. I will show you how this particular thing works, but it's very elegant. Okay, similarly there is something called interruption. Interruption means that you are just stopping everything, a situation where an asset of the system become lost and unavailable and unusable. Okay, so it is like that suppose you are accessing Facebook and a hacker, suppose I'll using the wrong example. Suppose you're using Google, because Google web page rarely got down in the history. Okay, so what happens is there a particular hacker, if you are wanting to access this particular website, this hacker can send millions and millions of packets to this particular server in order to uh, the destination server should be what you say overloaded. Okay, so this can happen. Okay, so a particular machine can send a lots and lots of packet to a particular website such that it will become unavailable or unusable. You cannot use it now Google, you have to use it other particular website. Okay, so it can happen. So this is again a part of a security threat. Okay. Another thing is modification. So an authorization tampering with an asset. So this is again that modification part is a kind of this is an example of a modification as well as an interception. Interception is only when you are this is a source and this is a destination, and you are intercepting the message, or you are just taking a watch of these messages. Okay. So a modification is when you are able to modify those messages that will come under it. Okay. And authorization tampering, like you're taking that 1,000 rupees and you're changing into 10,000. Okay. So fabrication is that you are using the destination machine or any kind of a remote. Suppose this is your machine and this is another machine, and you are you have gained the access of this machine, and you are doing everything on this, so that you will suppose if you are doing something illegal, so this particular machine owner will be in jail rather than that will come under fabrication. Okay, so unauthorized creation of counterfeit objects on a computing system. Okay, so that is referred to as fabrication. Okay, so keep that in mind. These are different kinds of system security threats. In it, there will be many threats. Okay, so don't worry about it. We will see each and every one individually. Okay. Now, what is the principle of easiest penetration? You will read this particular thing in penetration testing, but keep that in mind. This is referred to as the principle of easiest penetration. Okay, so what it means is that you have to consider all the possible. Suppose if you have designed a particular software, so this is software. So I have to consider all the possible attacks that can happen on this particular software. Okay, so simply I cannot do it. There will be a team of tester that will be available to you that can tell you about your security, that this particular software is according to your security compliance. Now understand this, that a software engineer and a security engineer are two different things. Okay, software and security engineer are two different things. Okay, software engineer is only making a software, and it can put one or two security modules, but it cannot put more than that. But a security engineers can put different kind of security modules in a software. In a software, it can put various kind of security modules, and it can also test the software again compliances. Okay, compliances mean that it is according to the current standard of security. Okay, so keep that in mind. There is a difference between a software engineer. Software engineer is only designing software. It can put one or two module, but it cannot put the whole security that can only be put in the place by a security engineer. Okay, so they are two different things. Okay, so security, there will be a proper Bible for security engineer, that it has to have documentation, it has to have security compliances, it has to have these particular modules, and it has to be the current standard of security. Okay, so every time that I have seen that if you open any kind of a government website, there may be many kind of a security labs there. Okay, so now the government is trying to get many kind of bug bounty engineers, and they are just but taking out the bugs, and they are reporting that these are the bugs in the Indian websites, because they are already hacked by many other countries, to show that we have, like Indian hackers are hacking Pakistani websites. In the similar way, Pakistani and Chinese hackers also try to hack the Indian government website. So that is why Indian government is now moving towards bug bounty and other things. But again, that there is no kind of any kind of a reward for bug bounders. They just give you simple thank you. Okay. So now this particular thing is now changing, because they are also establishing a new government cyber security what you say department, in which these kind of thing will happen. Okay, so it is in the possibility in the coming future, but still now the government is also aware of it. Okay, so now keep that in mind. That is what is the principle of easiest penetration, is that a intruder must be expected to use any available means of penetration. Okay, so if you are intruder, you have to think like one. Okay, so if you want to become a white hat hacker, you have to think like an intruder, that what are the possible resources and what are the possible ways in which you can gain the access of a software. and those particular system will not be in your books or any other kind of a material. Okay, so it's like that whenever you are testing security, you will follow standard. Okay, so that is there. Like SQL, you are protected against a SQL attack, SQL injection. There is no kind of ERP poisoning that can be put on a system. But still, there may be a many other things that will not be written in books. Okay, so when you are doing it, you will understand and you can easily point it out. Okay, so the penetration may not necessarily be by the most obvious means. Okay, so most obvious means are already we have a literature. Okay, so for most obvious means we already have a literature, nor it is necessarily the one which will be the most solid defense has been installed. Okay, so it will not be like that. If you have already put a solid defense against a particular kind of attack, it will not be like they will try to penetrate that attack, because you have already put a defense around those that a particular hacker cannot gain access. So it may be any other kind of penetration that can happen. Okay, so in this particular thing, that penetration means that it can either be a web application, it can either be a software, it can either be the access of your machine, like remote access. Okay, so it implies the computer security specialist must consider all possible means of penetration. Penetration analysis must done repeatedly. Okay, so this is one of the main tasks. Okay, so whenever you got a software or whenever you got any kind of a website for security testing, you have to test this particular website or software repeatedly. Okay, so for 3 or 4 months, I think this is the standard timeline. So they just test the website accordingly, that if there any kind of a there any kind of a mean that exists there, so that I can get into the website. Okay, so mainly problem with the website is that there are many kind of doors available in which you can gain access of admin. Okay, so mainly problem is that the admin access is all readily available on websites. Okay, so this is the main task of a particular penetration hacker, that they will not be able to get the access of an admin account, because if they able to get the access of the admin account, they will able to get all the information regarding the users. Okay, so you may be seeing the Google Chrome already says that a particular password breach happens and you should delete your password or you should change your password, which most of the users ignore. Okay, so this particular thing happens because of this admin breach. Okay, so if they are able to get the account of the admin, they may be able to get the account of all the users that are stored. Okay, especially when a system especially when system and its security change. Okay, so this is again one most important thing, because if you're seeing here, every antivirus or every other kind of security software are readily updated. Okay, so if they find any kind of a new malware or any kind of a new virus, they just release what you say security patch, and they try to combat it further. Okay, so there may be a particular virus that will exist, but the software is not strong enough or updated enough to tackle that. Okay, so after there will be the reports that there are system viruses that exist on the system, then there will be a particular update that will be there. Okay, so that is why I'm saying that it's not like that whenever you are testing security, it's not the obvious one, because for the obvious one, the literature is already available. Okay, so when you are testing any software and any website for security, it will not be the obvious one when you are when you so just wait a second. Okay, one more thing. If there are some students that are not being added into a group, okay. So because I've got the list of only 35 people, okay. So if I have added four, but if any other student is remaining, just let me know. Also, you should create a WhatsApp group of the specialization only, okay. So if you have created it, let me know, but you have to create it, okay, so that I can also give you any kind of information regarding a certification or other things, okay. Have you created it? Anybody can answer?
Yes, sir. We have a group in of cybersecurity. We will
Okay,
add
so
you in
how many
that.
people are there in?
Just a minute, sir. All the people are added previous semester only. Total
Okay,
members are 51.
okay, so there are
So
51 people
no,
that
sir. 50 people are there. One
so
was the faculty.
50 people was a part of cybersecurity specialization or in general that have an interest.
So
In
No,
general.
cybersecurity
sir. I think
specialization only.
cybersecurity only.
Okay, so there are 50 students.
Yes, sir.
I only got a list of only 40. So what I'll do, if any CR is there,
Yes, sir. I'm the CR Mike.
okay, Mayank, I will give you just I'll share you the number, my WhatsApp number.
Yes.
Everybody should take it, and I will give you a particular team link so that if any people belonging to towards a particular specialization, that they can join it. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Okay. So just let me continue with the lecture. Okay, so this is the principle of easiest penetration. Okay, so this you will study in penetration testing as well, but this is a little bit of introduction. Okay, now there is another thing called how can you control the vulnerability. Okay, so vulnerability control is just a procedure, a kind of a plan or a policy that can be there. So you can reduce a vulnerability. Again, I'm using the term reduce here because you cannot actually what you say uh, you cannot just completely remove the vulnerability. You can only reduce it because there may be vulnerability in the system and there are people that can exploit it. That is not till covered. Okay, so you cannot say that any system is 100% security attack proof. Okay, similarly, a threat can be blocked by a control of vulnerability. So keep that in mind. What is a vulnerability and what is a threat? So if there is a vulnerability in the system, then there is a threat that can arrive. Okay, so vulnerability means that if there is any kind of, suppose if I give you an example here that you are uh, what do you say, there is no validation that is being applied on the text boxes. Okay, there the username and password there. So there is a, what you say, a SQL injection threat that can arise. Okay, SQL injection threat that can arise. Okay, threat means it's again a kind of a vulnerability, but threat means that they can take all the username and passwords of the user. Okay, so I cannot say that a SQL injection is a threat. Actually, it is a kind of a vulnerability by which you can get all the username and passwords. Okay, so that will be your threat. Okay, so another thing is security policy is statement of a system protection strategy, succinct statement of a system protection strategy. So that is why I've said a security engineer try to take care of all the documentation. Okay, so in the end, there is something when you read penetration testing, there are different, there are many steps that are there for documentation. Okay, so in that documentation, there will be a security policy document as well. Okay, so that will contain all the protection plans and all the strategy that you have been employed in a particular website or any kind of a software. Okay, so this is the example of a security policy that you are providing regular patches, like you are getting security patches for Android or any kind of operating system that you in Windows also you are getting monthly patches or a software update so that your system can deal with the rising any kind of rising, what you say, attacks. Okay, this is one of the most important thing that is written here. Patches must be verified and can be only downloaded from a specific server. Okay, so previously it is not happened. Okay, so this particular vulnerability has been exploited in the case study that I've been telling you about, the ATM heist. Okay, so they got a patch, but the particular patch was not a part of what you say uh, the update. Okay, so it was created by the hacker, and that particular patch allowed the ATM networks to just spill out money. Okay, so how much money that it want. Okay, so this is a kind of case study that the first ATM bank heist, that is around $2.2 million. Okay, so that happened around in 2017, and what actually happened there was that one hacker, that was a European hacker, after investigation that it was find out that it is able to get the, just wait a second, it is yeah. So one particular hacker is able to get inside the system of this bank. Okay, so what this particular hacker has done is that they have put a mail from managers and other things, and they put this mail and circulated across the employees. Okay, so many of the employees have opened this mail, and their system got infected. Okay, the first problem was when the system, many people do not get to know that their system got infected. Okay, so this is the first problem, that the people are not aware that the system got infected. Another thing was that it is not simply that your system got infected. There are so many things going on here. It's a very collaborated kind of heist. That is why it's a case study. Okay, so get this, that if you're getting lot and lot of hard cash, how can you just take this cash and flew out of the country? That is not possible. So you have to get money laundering also. So you have to include money launderers also. Okay, so that they can convert this money, black money, into white money. Okay, so this particular attack is not taken by only one or two people, but there was a team that took care of this. Okay, so what happened there, when the system was infected, there was what you call, in the ATMs, what they do, they have used the bank gateway. Okay, so they have used what you say, they have given a false patch. If you're seeing here, dispatch false patch. Okay, so this false patch was given to the ATM, and the ATM is not able to verify this. Okay, so there was no functionality that the ATM will be able to verify that it is from bank gateway or from any other gateway. Okay, so this was the first vulnerability that was there, and it is not like the team was not able to exploit this earlier. This particular team is so much experienced that they have conducted many robberies in European Union also. Okay, but they got caught here because there are a series of investigation occur, and the team got caught. You can look at it in the news. Okay, you will find, just write ATM heist 7 2017. There will be a news article there. Okay, so what happened here is that ATM is not able to recognize that this particular patch is from bank gateway. Okay, so this is the main problem here. If the ATM is able to recognize that this is not from bank gateway, the ATM will not just spit out money. Okay, so here the ATM, and there was a ATM network, and it was planned. Okay, planned like, they said that from like 15 to 20 ATMs at this time, this many dollars will come out. Okay, so this was the actual plan. Okay, so they have, in the patch they have written that at this amount of time, at 5 a.m. in the morning, there will be like $20,000 come out from this ATM, 20,000 from this, 20,000 from this. Okay, so that, in that way, so they have not only taken out the money, they have also sent people there. Okay, to send people there to collect the money. Okay, to collect the money, and then those people came back with the money, and then they gave it to money launderers, and then they converted this black money into white money. Okay, so this is the whole plan, and this occurs due to the infected system. And this is very simple thing. If you're seeing here, it is not kind of a vulnerability, because this is a kind of vulnerability of the people, that they are not, what you say, educated enough so that they can guess that this particular email attack is there to gain access of the system. Okay, another thing is that this particular ATM. Okay, so if the ATM was able to recognize that a particular patch or a security patch was not from the bank website, then again it can also, this will not never have happened. Okay, so now whenever you are getting a security patch, first of all, the security patch is will be able to verify that this particular patch is coming from a bank website or any kind of a bank server that is attached to it. Okay, so now the networks are very secure. Again, I'm saying that there may be system, that there may be vulnerability that lie in the system, but they are waiting to be uncovered. Okay, so in this way we are able to get that there will be a, that there is from this particular bank heist, we're able to get that there is a vulnerability lie in the system and we are able to fix it. Okay, so this is the fix. Now no one, now the ATM will only be the patch will only be from the bank website or a tied server. Okay, so that again is cross verified with many security measures in place. Okay, so this is a case study. So what are the common vulnerabilities that you can find? This I have already explained to you, that injection process. Okay, so I'll perform the SQL injection in lab also. Okay, so mostly will be SQL, but again this kind of injection can also be performed in JavaScript as well. Okay, so the name is different for that. I think that will come further. I will tell you what do I mean by this. Okay, so how can you take care of it? So such injection can include SQL, NoSQL, OS, LDAP injection. So I'll explain each and every one, don't worry, in detail. Okay, so it's very simple that you, how can you remedy means how can you countermeasure or how can you stop this kind of a vulnerability. Okay, so it is very simple that you can put validation. Okay, so if you put validation, that you cannot put a command in a text box, it can easily be dealt with. Okay, so you have to make sure that all the input is validated and sanitized. Okay, so if anybody is putting a command, this particular thing should not be uh, get into the server. Okay, so if they get into the server, it means that it will be executed as a query. Okay, so if it is executed as a query, it will return a number of rows that will be displayed in the text boxes. Okay, similarly there is something called broken authentication. Okay, so broken authentication that mainly occurs due to session layer. Okay, so maybe you have been studying computer networks, and in this computer networks there is something called a OSI layer. Okay, so in mostly in first or second lecture you may have known about this, and this contains 7 layers. Okay, so OSI is a kind of architecture. OSI layers, we call it open source integration. Okay, so 7 layers are there. First was physical layer, and then there was anybody has read it, can you tell me? Data link, network, transport, session, presentation, and application. Okay, so I'm called telling you about this particular session layer. Okay, so what happens in this session layer, we keep the information of the session. Okay, username, password, and other things are kept in the session. Okay, so when you log in your Facebook, now the session is active, so all the information that is containing to this particular session will be stored in the session layer. Okay, so if you are able to break the session layer, you will be able to break the authentication, because here the username and password of a particular user is being stored. Okay, so anybody can take access of it. So you also have to put a particular security measures here so that your authentication cannot be broken. Okay, so to validate a most site will require a user to authenticate login to the application. However, weakness with authentication or session management, okay, so can result in attackers gaining access to user accounts. Okay, so that can also happen, but it is very rare now. Okay, because session layer is a part of OSI layer architecture, and the security measures have already been in place. Okay, so now the websites are not HTTP, they are HTTPS. Most of the websites are HTTPS, and because of this, there is a secure layer architecture there. Okay, because of this S. Okay, so I'll tell you about this. So you can also avoid it by using two-factor authentication. Two-factor authentication, I think you will see now in your Teams account that you have to get a message on your mobile so that you can log in. Okay, so you have to put a password and then you have to get a message on your mobile. So this is referred to as two-factor authentication. So that is also a good thing, that by only knowing a password you cannot log in into a into account. So that is again two-factor authentication is referred. This is a very good form of uh, authentication, because it 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 eliminates that you cannot what you say, hijack the session layer, as well as you cannot hijack the mobile phone at the same time. So that is a difficult task. Okay. Again, there is something called, again, you're thinking that you have taken a cybersecurity specialization, you will become a hacker. Okay. So hacker does not mean that you can hack the password of other people, like in from Facebook account or Instagram account. It's a very difficult process. Okay. So if you're thinking, if you are able to get all the tools, the knowledge of all the tools, and you have to use those tools accordingly to get access. Okay. So it is not like that. It is very simple that you take one or two tools and you can get the username and password of other people. It's not like that. Okay. So keep that in mind. Another thing is sensitive data exposure. Okay. So within an application, a user can store a lot of data, like your financial credit cards, like in Amazon, you store your credit cards information, any other information. Okay. So that can also be taken by the attackers. Okay. So again, this is very important to have extra protection. Okay. So basically it's like you're saving your password on Google Chrome. Okay. So they do not have a very good security, and most of the passwords are being leaked. Okay. So if you are storing your information on Amazon website, so they are very secure. And another website, because they have implemented the SSL layer architecture. Okay. So that is why you do not need to store your passwords and any sensitive information on any illicit website. Okay. So that you will get. XML external entries. So whatever we have done with the SQL injection, this is again that can happen, that XML input. Okay. So XML is again a kind of markup language where you can use this particular language to store data or any other kind of a tag. Okay. So again, you can use XML, but now it is very, what you say, rarely used, because they earlier it was very easy to if you have the knowledge of XML, you can easily get the information or data base out of it. Okay. So the commands are very simple. That is why they have changed the XML into a more what you say standard data set. Okay. Database. Okay. So that I think that we use JSON right now. Okay. So this particular thing not happen in this one. Okay. So previously when there was XML, that markup language was used, you just have to right click it and you just have to look at the information of if it is not HTTP, you just have to look at you have to right click and you just have to gather the, what you say, you just change the extension to HTML, and then you will easily get whatever is listed or whatever the code is written there. So it was very easy. But now we have changed to JSON and everything is encrypted here. When you download it, you will not get anything out of it. Okay. So to fix this vulnerability, we use less complex format, like such as JSON. Okay. So we are avoiding any kind of XML now. We are shifting towards JSON. Another thing is broken access control. Okay. So again, uh, this can only happen that the user can gain access. Access control is that a particular, suppose you are a database engineer, and you've given people that particular people can access only this kind of data. The student can only see their roll numbers and marks. Teachers can see their information as well as students, and HODs can see all the information. Okay. So this is a kind of access control. Okay. So if a user, if any student is able to gain the access of what you say HOD, this is referred to as broken access control. Okay. So that should not happen. Okay. So when a user authenticate to the application, they should only be allowed to access content functionality for their level. Okay. So if anybody is able to get the username and password of this administrator, he can change the content. Okay. So it can also change the access controls also. It can also change the content. It can change everything. Okay. So for example, a normal user should only be able to see admin functionality, should never be able to access admin functionality. However, these restrictions are not always enforced, which allows normal users to use functionality view content as if they were privileged user. Okay. So there may be some restriction that the particular normal user should not be able to access the admin tab. Okay. So to remedy, it's very simple to remediate. You just have to put safeguards there so that users that you are providing any kind of authentication, they should not get. You just have to put a username and password that people cannot access database and administrator account. Okay, similarly there is something called security misconfiguration, and that can happen due to misconfigured HTTP headers. Okay, so I'll explain everything because these HTTP headers and TCP will study in Wireshark. Okay, so I'll show you how can you what do you say, track, how can you intercept different kinds of TCP packets, and how can you change the contents of it. Okay, now not change is a very big thing, but still you can look at the contents of a particular connection to which you are connected. Okay, so that will happen with the help of Wireshark. Okay, so I'll show you with an experiment. Okay, so these are some of the resources. I'll explain these particular vulnerabilities in the next one. So these are common vulnerabilities. Okay, this particular vulnerabilities exist uh, generally in Linux as well as in Windows. Okay, so they are not specifically tied to a particular operating system. Okay, so there is something called a TCP vulnerability, TCP stack vulnerability, that is only specific to Linux. Okay, so I'll explain you different kinds of vulnerability that is only related to Windows and that is only related to Linux. Okay, so that will be what you say, very recent. Okay, so that is not like that they are from 1991. They will be very recent, like from 2020 or 2019. Okay, so we'll study in the next one. If you have any doubt, just let me know. Any doubt till now? Any doubt?
No,
No,
sir.
sir.
So uh, Mayank, I'll just share you my number. Okay,
Sir, I have added you in the group.
okay, so you have added me.